Hello and welcome to Earth Echoes with Amber Fields. I am here today to read a very important piece that Jason wrote last week, and it is titled The Hijacking of the Human Mind by Jason Gray. January 15th, 2026, 6026, Anno Lucis. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Rage bait does not work because people are ignorant. It works because it is designed to override the very mechanisms that once kept us alive. This is the part most discussions never reach. What is happening is not a failure of intelligence. It is a capture of biology. To understand why division is so devastatingly effective, we must descend beneath politics, beneath media narratives, beneath ideology, and into the architecture of the human nervous system itself. What we are witnessing today is not mass disagreement. It is mass neurological hijacking. The human brain was never designed for this world. The human brain evolved in an environment of scarcity, proximity, and immediacy. Threats were physical, local, rare, and resolvable. Your nervous system learned to survive in tribes of dozens, not networks of billions. It learned to recognize danger in faces, voices, movement, and tone, not headlines, avatars, symbols, and statistics. Your brain is exquisitely tuned for short bursts of threat, followed by rest. It is catastrophically unprepared for endless streams of alarming information, continuous symbolic conflict, perpetual moral emergencies, and artificial enemies delivered at scale. Rage bait exploits this mismatch with surgical precision. It places a Stone Age nervous system inside a digital war zone and never lets it leave. The amygdala, the ancient gatekeeper of fear and rage. At the core of this mechanism sits a small, ancient structure, the amygdala. The amygdala does not reason. It does not debate. It does not contextualize. Its mandate is brutally simple: direct threat, trigger response, skip deliberation. When rage-inducing content appears, an insult, a perceived injustice, an attack on identity, the amygdala fires milliseconds before conscious thought can intervene. This sets off a cascade. Adrenaline floods the bloodstream. Cortisol spikes stress and vigilance. Attention narrows to the perceived threat. The body prepares for conflict. In this state, complexity collapses. Context disappears. Ambiguity becomes intolerable. And other humans become symbols, not people. The thinking brain does not shut off. It is overruled. This is why rage spreads faster than truth. It does not compete in the marketplace of ideas. It bypasses it entirely. Why anger feels so powerful and so addictive. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never confront. Rage feels good, initially. Anger releases dopamine, creating reward and reinforcement, and norepinephrine, sharpening focus and urgency. This chemical cocktail produces a brief but intoxicating state, moral certainty, emotional intensity, a sense of purpose and tribal belonging. The brain mistakes this surge for meaning. This is why people return again and again to content that enrages them. They are not seeking understanding. They are self-administering neurochemical stimulation. Outrage becomes a drug. Identity fusion. When beliefs become the self. Rage bait rarely attacks facts first. It attacks identity. Once anger fuses with identity, people like me see the truth. People like them are the problem. The brain activates in-group and out-group bias, one of the most powerful survival adaptations in human history. This bias amplifies trust within the group, collapses empathy toward outsiders, punishes internal dissent, and suppresses critical thinking. In evolutionary terms, this kept tribes alive. In digital environments, it turns populations into mutually hostile factions that cannot hear, see, or reason with one another. Social platforms reward this relentlessly with affirmation over accuracy, signaling over substance, and outrage over insight. Rage becomes social currency. Belonging becomes conditional on hostility. Confirmation bias. When the brain becomes a closed loop. Repeated exposure to rage conditions the brain itself. Neural pathways associated with outrage strengthen through repetition. Synapses that fire together, wire together. Over time, rage-aligned information is accepted instantly. Contradictory information triggers threat response. Neural data feels suspicious, and complexity feels dangerous. This is confirmation bias, not as a philosophical concept, but as a psychological reality. The brain becomes trained to protect the narrative that keeps the chemical rewards flowing. Rage becomes the default lens through which reality is interpreted. Learned helplessness. Wearing the mask of engagement. One of the cruelest tricks of rage bait is this. It makes people feel involved while quietly stripping them of agency. Rage offers endless motion with no traction. Posting, commenting, arguing, sharing. It very rarely produces structural reform, collective strategy, or cross-group cooperation. This mirrors learned helplessness, a psychological state where effort is expended without meaningful impact. Energy is burned sideways and downward. Historically, this is why divide and conquer strategies used by empires such as the Roman Empire and articulated by thinkers like Sun Tzu and Niccolo Machiavelli were so effective. A population consumed by internal conflict never unites against the architecture that exploits it. Algorithms as operant conditioning machines. Modern media systems do not merely reflect behavior, they shape it. Algorithms function like large-scale operant conditioning frameworks. Emotional engagement is rewarded with visibility. Calm neutrality is punished with invisibility. Extremes are amplified. Moderation is starved. Each click, share, and comment trains the system. The system trains the brain in return. Eventually, calm feels empty. Thought feels slow, and silence feels threatening. People mistake withdrawal from stimulation for loss of meaning. In reality, it is nervous system detox. What happens when you step out? When someone disengages from rage cycles, the first phase is not peace. It is withdrawal. The brain, deprived of constant dopamine spikes, experiences restlessness, emptiness, and a sense of irrelevance. This is not apathy. It is recalibration. As the nervous system stabilizes, attention span lengthens, emotional regulation improves, and the prefrontal cortex regains authority. This region, the seat of empathy, reasoning, and long-term planning, once again moderates the amygdala instead of being dominated by it. People do not become passive. They become dangerously clear. From reaction to sovereignty. When rage no longer governs perception, a profound shift occurs. You stop asking, "Who should I hate?" and you begin asking, "What system produces this outcome?" You see incentives instead of villains, structures instead of scandals, and patterns instead of propaganda. This is the moment rage bait loses its grip. Not because it disappears, but because the nervous system no longer responds as designed. Why unity is the ultimate threat. Unity does not mean uniformity. It means shared regulation. A population capable of tolerating disagreement, holding complexity, and resisting emotional hijacking. A population that can no longer be governed through division. This is why rage will continue to be amplified. It is cheaper than censorship, more effective than force, and nearly invisible to those trapped inside it. Rage bait is not about politics. It is not about ideology. It is not even about media. It is about who controls attention. And attention, neurologically, psychologically, existentially, is life itself. When attention is reclaimed, something ancient returns. The ability to think together. And that, more than any movement, protest, or outrage, is the one thing no divided system can survive. Jason Gray. Thank you for that poignant piece, Jason. It's so important in these times, especially. And it's just so true, that what you pay attention to grows. And so if you are paying attention to something that you don't like, you should stop unless you want it to get bigger and become more prevalent. And that is such a truth that so many people are missing in the world today. And it's exactly because of what Jason laid out in that writing. I know for me, I was much more susceptible to rage bait and to these psychological techniques that are used against humanity prior to COVID. Once COVID hit and I really started questioning what was going on and really seeing through a lot of propaganda, I do feel that I've become much more immune to these tactics, and I'm much more easily able to see through them since the era of COVID, and for that I'm just so thankful. So yeah, there's just a lot of important information to contemplate in that piece, and I hope you do. And I want to thank you for being here with me today.